Dear Diary, here are 5 things I'd tell 18-year-old me. Number 1, don't work so hard you forget to have fun. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. But on the flip side, don't have so much fun you forget to work, because the main reason you're there is to get your degree, which you're paying a ton for. In my first year of uni, I worked constantly. Swallowed by long days of lectures, tutoring and revision, I forgot I was just a girl. So focused was I on figuring out how this whole uni system worked and balancing that with paying my tuition fees, that the rest of my world disappeared before my very eyes. Meal times would come and go without me realizing. Each day before I knew it, it was already 1 a.m. again, and this was after a futile plan for an early night. The cycle continued for months. The stress chipped away at the baby fat on me and sculpted me into an adult self I barely recognized. Skinnier, weaker, and perpetually tired. My once fun-oriented self seemed to have forgotten she had friends and family who cared for her, and she for them. I got good marks that year. When everything came to a close, I realized I had no one to celebrate it with. Second year swung to the other extreme. I had finally found my people, and suddenly, studying felt like the last thing I wanted to do. Lectures were more fun spent giggling over the silliest things rather than listening. We'd go out for lunch and conveniently forget to make it back in time, the group hangouts filling my afternoons. When I eventually got back home each day, I could muster just about enough energy to teach my students before I wanted nothing more than to fall into my bed's comforting arms. For the first time, university began to feel social. Unfortunately, my disciplines simultaneously fell by the wayside. That year counted towards my degree, and when I got my results back, I was sorely disappointed, but had only myself to blame. Balance, it turned out, was something you had to learn the hard way. Number 2, there will be different kinds of people, and not all of them will be your kind. The thing about university is that it throws together a most random group of individuals, who under normal circumstances you probably wouldn't have met. I came from a small sheltered world, an all-girls grammar school, with the default of studying hard and aiming high no matter what was lost in the process. At university, I had my first culture shock. Here, I encountered people whose priorities were entirely different to mine. Loan-funded freedom inspired a nocturnal routine I found quite unimaginable. Party by night, sleep by day. Add this missed lecture to an already long list of things to deal with later. For these peers of mine, a 2-1 was great, which, as you can imagine, was an appalling thing for me to digest. Now, I may or may not be judging their approach, but the truth is we are all entitled to choosing our own path in life. But some paths are simply incompatible with one another. Finding people whose values matched mine changed everything. When I met my best friend at uni, who also was a crazy high achiever and wasn't on the partying scene, it was like a breath of fresh air, and the rest of my university experience became more enjoyable thanks to her. Love you, girl. University, more so than any school I ever encountered, is also full of social politics. Friend groups form quickly and aren't always kind. Hearing stories of people being quietly excluded or spoken about in their absence, I realized something uncomfortable. This was the adult world. Beneath the shimmering niceties of everyday interactions lay a murkier reality. Alliances, quiet exclusions, and the kind of social maneuvering that rarely shows itself openly. Even the kindest soul is not spared from becoming someone's target. The safest approach is simple. Observe how people behave. One mistake can be forgiven, my love, but never let anyone fool you twice on the same count. Repeated behaviors are patterns that tell you everything you need to run away. Number 3, there will also be some weirdos, so don't get caught up with them. As I said, I came from a little bit of a small, sheltered world. University introduced me to strange people who behaved in the most bewildering of ways. Some were simply eccentric, but others, in hindsight, were best avoided entirely. That's all I'll say for that one. Pay attention early, it saves you a great deal of unnecessary trouble later. Number 4, the average person lacks ambition. One thing that surprised me was how few people aimed higher than the minimum required. A first-class degree was impressive, but many were perfectly happy with a 2-1. My best friend and I approached it differently. We friendly competed for the top ranking. I ended up taking that title while she won the prize for the best dissertation project. She very much deserved that. I learned that ambition can feel alien in environments where most people are satisfied with good enough. But just because others don't care doesn't mean you shouldn't either. Aim to be the best. You'll have stories to tell and much character development along the way. And you'll of course be the best in your field. Who wants to be just mediocre? You were made for better. Number 5, which is by no means the last lesson I learned, is that large universities can make lecturers seem distant. Always there, but always out of reach, especially in huge cohorts. I was lucky to be in a smaller one. Asking questions early turned out to matter. If you prepare properly and keep up with the material, your questions will never be foolish. And so what if they are anyway? Lecturers always notice students who engage seriously with their work. So even if your heart beats faster than it should and it feels like the words might catch in your throat, raise your hand and ask that question. It might not even get easier every time you ask, but hey, you might end up the lecturer's favourite, even if it's just because nobody else asks. I found that those relationships became so valuable to me later on when I needed guidance or a reference or someone willing to advocate for me. The relationships I worked to build with my lecturers would always come in clutch. And finally, the biggest lesson all my years at university taught me was the danger of tunnel vision. Work too hard and you miss the life happening around you. Focus only on fun and the opportunity slips away. Aim only for the grade and you forget the people who made the journey meaningful. The real goal is balance. Study seriously, build friendships, learn from your lecturers, and earn money if necessary, but don't let any one of those things consume the others. When you look back, these years will shape you more than you realize at the time. So choose wisely.